Welcome, welcome, welcome. I always enjoy the videos by Eddie Perino. Amazing guy. Highly recommend you go and check him out. So we're in for a very, very exciting session this evening. I'm very excited to be joined by a good friend of mine, Simon, and we'll be literally taking you through the UK property market update. What do you need to understand? And I'll also be sharing with you some of the ways that you can look at diversifying into commercial and international property. So Simon, I've got a couple of things that I want to kind of get started with everyone. But before I do, let's welcome you into the room. And sure, what a day with Trump getting into power and everything in between all happening basically today. Huh?
Absolutely. It's been a busy day today, but yeah, great to be here, Scott, and really pleased to be talking about UK property investing and how it fits into the global mix. And I'm a great believer in what you talk about is the power of diversification and how you're making it very simple for people to truly diversify around the world. And part of that should absolutely be investing in UK property. So yeah, excited to be here and ready when you are.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I want to give people a little bit of an intro. So do me a favor quickly. I'd just like to see in the chat box, how many of you have seen Simon speak before? So just go Simon, yes or no. And just interested. And then we can, from my perspective, while we're doing this, I want to play a little video. And I know, by the way, Simon, just a funny story. I was talking to someone who I know really well, and I was like, look, we're coming to the UK. I'm super excited about it. Who would you speak to in England, like the number one person in property? And the amount of people that said you. Now, I know I've known you for 19 years, but it's always interesting.
What do you mean? You act like you're surprised, Scott. What's going on?
Well, at the end of the day, look, I mean, you and I stood on stage back in 2005 in Birmingham. So, we walked along.
Absolutely. And I think in London as well. In London, yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, no, very much so. But I just thought you'd enjoy that little accolade. I want to start by playing a video for everyone, and I think for me it sums up kind of the future, where we're going, and what we're excited about. And as Simon says, it's amazing. Whenever I do this anywhere in the world, the UK always comes up as a destination that people want to participate in. But I wanted to get going with this little video because I think this is the future that we're trying to create.
We'd like to introduce you to a revolution unlike any other throughout the history of mankind. This is a wealth revolution, and it's going global. Did you ever think that you'd be able to benefit from the only real, time-honored investment mankind has ever known? Real estate. Real estate investing has only ever been accessible to a small percentage of the world's population. This is no longer the case. The wealth revolution means that wherever you are on your wealth journey, be it taking your first steps or taking off globally, you can join our global community, a community of real estate investors just like you. The Global Wealth Group is experiencing exponential growth, and wealth has never been this accessible. A truly global wealth revolution. We dream big, and our dream is to impact the lives of 1 billion people. 1 billion people. How will we do this? Through groundbreaking digital platforms that allow investors like you to take part in exciting real estate investment opportunities. These opportunities are waiting for you everywhere, anywhere, worldwide. Now you can invest in real estate with any amount of money, from the comfort of your couch or your internet device. Introducing our global brand ecosystem. Wealth Create, Wealth Migrate, Wealth University, The Wealth Movement. WealthCreate.com is a platform for those taking their first steps on the wealth journey. The new investors who earn whilst they learn using real or virtual currency. Imagine this. Now anyone can own part of a hospital, a share in their local shopping mall, co-invest in a new and exciting development, or even earn quarterly returns from residential and commercial tenants. They, you, can now stand alongside multi-millionaire investors and earn the same relative amounts. WealthMigrate.com is a platform for those investors who are already soaring, as well as those who seek to join them. You can now own and manage a global portfolio of commercial real estate and do it all online. You'll benefit from the capital growth of your investments and get paid quarterly dividends in first world currencies. whether they be from commercial tenants or the funding of developments. The global dashboard shows all available opportunities, potential investment pledges, upcoming deals, and most importantly, allows you to manage your global diversified portfolio in one place. Passports and visas also become easier to obtain, as well as tax-efficient structures that allow global flexibility. Create the freedom you desire for you and your family. Wealthuniversity.org is a video-based e-learning platform for those who want their wealth knowledge to take off. Our research shows that the wealth mindset is the single most important aspect of creating and sustaining wealth. Test your wealth IQ and challenge friends and family to find out theirs. Acquire the thinking, secrets, habits, and proven success strategies used by the world's wealthiest investors, as well as that of our global community, who aren't just talking about it, but are actually creating it. Graduate and change your destiny and your future. Wealthmovement.com is the global gathering of our fans and followers in conferences hosted in local cities around the world, inspiring minds to help each other create more sustainable global wealth. The goal: to build a wealthier world together, and together to help reduce the wealth gap between the haves and the have-nots. Gain the latest up-to-the-minute knowledge of technology forecasts, internet finance, exponential thinking, collaborative smart investing, co-creation, apps and platforms, global wealth forecasts, cryptocurrencies, and new and exciting investment opportunities. This is your chance to meet your global wealth partners, co-investors, and friends, to be inspired by the world's wealthiest individuals and to learn to think how they do. We are pioneering a global wealth revolution. Join us. Let's change the world.
I thought I'd share that little video with you as a bit of an intro. And what I'm super excited about tonight is to bring literally one of the people that I know most in terms of the UK property market, but also someone that I trust. But before I bring Simon up, I want to ask you some questions so that you can actually answer this for yourself. What would it mean to you in 12 months or less to be earning £5,000 passive income without any hassle or complexity? What would that mean to you? You can type in the chat box, you can think about it, you can write it down on a piece of paper. What would it actually mean to you? Secondly, how would you like a system which could statistically help you get there 5 times faster, simpler, or safer? And I want to be very clear, there's no such thing as a get-rich-quick scheme. But I do fundamentally believe that if you copy what other successful people have done, you can significantly increase the speed and you can also reduce the risk. What about on the other side of the fence, the 7 pillars to wealth? You know, I know that I bought my first house in London in 2002. And for me personally, you know, residential property has, you know, there's quite a lot of hassle involved in it. And it's not true kind of passive income for me. So how can I make money while I sleep? What about owning assets that are actually hassle-free and are simple and safe? What about having access to the knowledge that the top 1% have? What about access to the partners that the top 1% have and navigating all the uncertainties in the market? What about having time freedom? Diversifying across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. And finally, protecting your wealth, having a plan B and having peace of mind, not having all your eggs in one basket. This is what we call the 7 pillars to wealth. Now, what Simon and I are going to share with you tonight, and we're going to give you some options, but I just wanted to share with you real people and real stories. And you can see that there's a number of people here from around the world. Archie is out of England. Michael is out of England. Marina is an English lady, but out of Spain. Susanna's out of South Africa. Angie's out of Cape Town. Judy's out of Johannesburg. You know, Cynthia's out of, she's an American based out of Italy. And you just get the sense of real people and the stories that they've been on and the journeys that they've been on. And for the ladies in the house, I think that 2025 is going to be an incredible year where the research is coming out more and more of this growth in terms of empowerment, access to wealth. And ultimately, I think this is a massive movement that is taking place all around the world in terms of women and the growth of women in this wealth space. So I want to introduce you to Nicholas and sorry, to Jordan. And what I think is important here is Jordan is a high net worth 55-year-old. He's worked very hard all his life, and he wants to build a portfolio to protect his wealth. He wants to build passive income. Originally £5,000 a month, then £10,000 a month, then £25,000 a month, simply and safely. He wants to diversify his investments across countries, currencies, and assets. He wants to use his effective time. So he's really got limited time, but he wants to use it as effectively as possible. He wants to save millions of dollars and decades of frustration getting the right knowledge for him and his family. He wants wealth protection, a plan B, and peace of mind. He wants to be held accountable, knowing that he needs an accountability partner to get results. He wants a family office to be able to help manage all his financial affairs. He wants to create generational wealth for his family. He wants to have a fully completed wealth plan. And most importantly, he wants to get results. Who here, from wherever you are in the world, who here resonates with Jordan? Just say yes or no. If you resonate with Jordan and Jordan's needs and what Jordan's looking for, and whether you resonate with them yourself. What about Victoria? Victoria is an entrepreneur in her 50s, devoted to her family and business, aiming to build generational wealth. She's got a really, really packed schedule, and so she's looking for a streamlined investment strategy that empowers her to make wise decisions, aligns with her goals, and frees up her time for her grandchildren and daughters. She understands the investment landscape. She's tired of being kind of pointed in different directions and not trusting her financial advisor. She wants to feel empowered to make the right decisions for her and her family. And finally, she wants financial freedom so that she can cherish more moments with her loved ones. Who here resonates with Victoria? Or maybe both. Maybe it's Jordan, Victoria, and both. I'd like to think that having known Simon for nearly 2 decades now, between the two of us and what we're about to share with you tonight, if you resonate with what Jordan's looking for or what Victoria is looking for, or both, then you are in the right place. And I'm super excited because we put this collaboration together, and Simon and I have been talking for a long time about how can we work together, how can we add value. And Simon, I've got a little bit of a fun thing which I was going to share with you. Yeah. I don't know if you're happy with me sharing this.
No, you go for it. I remember this very well, Scott. They were very hot outfits, but you should go and share. Feel free.
So Simon and I both had the privilege of spending a week on Necker Island with Richard Branson. And while everyone thinks we work really hard, this was a little video of Simon and I. And it was actually really interesting. My experience of Necker Island is you work in the morning and then every afternoon it's fun and games, and whether it was sumo wrestling or kite surfing or anything. But this was me and him. I don't even know how we got matched up in the end, but we were all having some fun on the beach and doing some sumo wrestling. And I tend to joke with people, those of you who enjoy a bit of rugby. Anyway, Simon, that was the video. I actually went back through all my pictures and everything, and I couldn't find one of you and me in Birmingham. So I came up with the sumo competition. But before I hand over to Simon, there's one thing that I just wanted to share with you. And that's that something that I believe very strongly in, and I know, Simon, you do as well, is that we don't want this just to be theoretical. We actually want people to turn this into practice. And our philosophy is that Jill and Joe Soap are here and they invest and they kind of want to make money while they sleep. But the problem is people go on courses, they read books, they get mentors, coaches, whatever, and they do all this stuff and then they kind of fall off the bus and they don't get the results. So one of the things we set ourselves as a challenge last year was how can we help someone get to passive income within 30 days? And I want to share a little video with you here because the way this excitement comes through, and by the time Simon and I finish tonight, we want to share with you how you too can have this type of excitement around earning passive income.
Scott, can you remember when you were a little kid and it was Christmas morning and you opened your Christmas presents? Huh? Can you remember that? That's
well,
what I feel like.
I have a little kid, so I get reminded quite regularly at the moment.
I tell you what, amazing. And I only just got a few dollars back in my investments again. You know, it's the second payment that I got in that I've seen on my wallet, and it's money that I didn't have to slog for. I had to think for it, but I didn't have to slog for, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's just when you start seeing your money work for you, it's just an absolutely indescribable feeling. And as a farmer now, I've got a very specific goal, which says that I need to build alternate income streams so that the weather doesn't matter. Because that's, you know, being a crop farmer, the weather matters very much, and particularly this past year. When your income for a year is only 30% of what your expenses will be, you're in a difficult position. And to be energized and as excited as what I am in that position is incredibly empowering. Thanks, Scott.
So we wish that upon all of you to be able to have that. And as I hand over to Simon now, I just wanted to share one last point to pique your interest. But this is a deal launching in Manhattan in the next couple of days. And you're looking at about a 6 to 12% cash on cash return in dollars, a 14 to 23% target IRR, a 4 to 7 year hold. If you put in 100K, you're looking to, and again, I'm not giving financial advice, but these are the projections in terms of double within 5 years, which is a 2x equity multiple and roughly about 20% ROI. And what I'm super excited about for the first time ever is where people in England and around the world can invest fairly easily, safely and simply into America, into the likes of Manhattan, literally 1.5 Ks from the stock exchange. And so, Simon, it's without further ado that I just wanted to tell people, I'll talk about it more when you're finished, but I'm super, super excited about the fact that you and I are actually putting on a 3-day event in London to not only talk about the UK market and specifically, and I'm super excited to listen to you now, as the market's evolving in England and how one has to be savvy and think out the box and to create value. And then also when one's thinking as a global investor, like, how do I diversify? How do I not only take advantage of the UK market, but how do I take advantage of the American market? How do I take advantage of the European market? How do I diversify into commercial property, international property? And so without further ado, I wanted to hand to you, Simon. I'm super, super excited that you're going to give us a UK property update. And as I like to consider myself a global citizen, and I invite everyone else to be a global citizen, but it always starts with local expertise. I don't care what you want. I don't care where you want to invest in the world. You have to have the right partners on the ground. So I will talk more about the workshop that Simon and I are putting on in London in early February. You're very welcome to come and join us. You can go to that link, diversificationworkshop.com, and go and look at it. But don't do that now. For now, I want to hand the screen over to Simon, who, by the way, if you want to know UK market, he's the #1 guy on the ground. And I will shut up and hand over to you, Simon.
Thank you so much, Scott. And welcome, everyone. Great to hear lots of people. Some names I recognize, some people I've never heard of. So wonderful to meet everybody and great to hear from all around the world. And, you know, I really say I buy into Scott's philosophy about the global diversification. It's not something we could have done 20, 15 years ago, but now with the internet and with the service that Scott's provides, it's really very possible. And I think that spreading the risk and also tapping into markets where you couldn't normally get access to on your own, it'd be very difficult to do that, is a really powerful concept that Scott's bringing to and has been doing for the last decade or so. So I'm really happy that I'm going to be one of Scott's UK property partners. We have some incredible opportunities. And really, when you invest in property or real estate, as the Americans call it, there are two ways of doing it. You can either invest yourself, you can directly invest, you can put in your deposit, you can get your funding from a lender. You have to put a personal guarantee in place. You've got to manage it, look after it, etc. Or you can find someone who's been doing it a very long time and you can get into their deal without actually having to have your name on the mortgage by putting a very small amount of money in, or as much as you want, really. And it means it's very easy to access lots of opportunities. And in London, we're going to go into specific opportunities that people can get into to explain why we look at those kind of ventures, what's good, what's not so good. Because, by the way, not all property is the same. And any idiot can go and buy a property. And many idiots do go and buy a property because most people just don't know. When I bought my very first property in Birmingham in 1995, I didn't know what I was doing. I bought somewhere for me to live. It was next to the university where I'd been studying. It was very close to Cadbury's in Birmingham where I was working. And I rented out 2 of the rooms to my friends who were still at uni. And I pretty much lived for free. And I kind of thought this is good. And in 98, I bought my second property. Now, it's interesting what Scott mentioned earlier. He talks about you got to be careful. Some financial advisors, there's a challenge, and we are generalizing here, but some of them are not actually that well financially educated. They understand about what they sell and what they get commission for selling. And nothing wrong with that. Everyone's got to make some money. But sometimes I've had people who've complained about their IFAs to me by saying, well, they're getting this advice, and even if the client loses money, the IFA, the fund managers still make money, which kind of seems a bit wrong to me. And I remember at the back end of 1997, when I was sitting in the living room in my house, and I had the top financial advisor from the Lloyds Group, the Lloyds Bank Group in the Midlands, come and talk to me about my investments. And I'd been dabbling in shares previously. I didn't want to do that. I had some money in my bank because I was saving lots of my salary because I was living for free. I had a part-time business running student nightclub events in Birmingham, which was a wonderful, fun business at that age to do. And I had this money sitting there, and my business bank manager, this is in the days when you knew who your business bank manager was, you actually had a relationship with them, said, hey, what are you going to do with all this money? And I said, well, I'd like to invest it. So this financial advisor, Kevin, came along. He's about 10 years older than me. He said, do you have life insurance? I said, no. So he put some life insurance in place for me. He said, do you have a pension? Well, not really. So we put a private pension in place. I said, what do you want to do with this money? And I said, well, I want to invest it. And he started to put all sorts of bonds and returns I give. I said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to buy another property. And I explained that I worked at Cadbury's. It was a bit of a long walk each day, and I wanted to get a house closer to Cadbury's. And so Kevin assumed I was going to find a new house. I was going to sell this house, use the money, the equity, and also my savings to buy the second house and have a very small mortgage. And he said, Simon, that's a really good thing for you to do because having low debt and paying your mortgage off is one of the best things you can ever do. Now, I would agree with Kevin for the majority of home owners. If you're only ever going to have one property, i.e. your home, paying it down as soon as possible is a great thing to do. But I said to Kevin, no, I want to buy a new house, but I'm not going to sell this one. The one we're in right now, I'm not going to sell this. I'm going to keep this and rent this to students at Birmingham University. I was a student there myself. I know lots of students. I think I can rent it out. I've done the numbers. I can make money. And Kevin, who was a smart guy, he wore these kind of half moon glasses that doctors and professors wear. He looked at me kind of down his nose and over his glasses and said, hang on a minute. So you want to buy a second house to live in and you're going to keep this one to rent out? And I said, yes. Now, bear in mind, this was back in 1997. Buy-to-let mortgages had not really been created. They only came in 1998. There weren't the TV shows about property investing. In fact, the internet probably wasn't only just becoming a thing. Most people weren't really aware of the internet. And so people just didn't know about property. And Kevin said to me, and he actually took his glasses off and looked at me and said, that sounds awfully risky to me. Now, I must admit, I had a bit of a sleepless night because I was told this is one of the top financial advisors from the Lloyds Group, about 10 years older than me, helps wealthy people make more money. And when he says to me, what I'm planning to do is really risky, I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute, I don't know if that's so good. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should do what he said, sell my first house, use that equity plus my savings to have a low mortgage on my second one. Maybe that would be best to do. Then I remember meeting my first landlord when I was at university. And he lived in a huge house on a very posh, expensive road in Birmingham called Farquhar Road. And I remember saying to him as a cheeky 19-year-old at the time, when me and my friends went to his house to sign the contract, I said, excuse me, I hope you don't mind me asking, this is a lovely house. What do you do for a living? And he said, well, I used to be a solicitor. And obviously solicitors, attorneys, they get paid a lot of money. But he said, now I'm a full-time landlord. And I didn't really know what that meant, but it kind of sunk in. And because he was a hands-on landlord, He would come to the house, he'd sort out the contracts, he would chase late rent, he'd come and approve spending on the property in terms of maintenance. He wouldn't do it, but he'd approve it. And he said to me, at one time he came around, I said, would you like a cup of tea? And I said, can you tell me, how does this property thing work? And he said, well, I buy a house and sometimes I do a lot of work to it. Sometimes I don't need to do much to it. And I rent it out to students on a room by room basis. And the rent that comes in is more than the mortgage and the insurance and the maintenance cost. So I make money from each property, a bit like a cash machine, really. And he had about 100 of these in this student area. By the way, that portfolio, he's not with us anymore. He's passed away, but that'll be worth about £50 million. And he started with one as a solicitor, earning good money, bought one house. Then he bought another. Then he remortgaged, bought another two, then another four. And his portfolio grew up. And I remember thinking at that time, wow, when I have lots of money, I would love to invest in property. And that's what people think. You have to have a lot of money to invest in property. Well, that's not true, especially with something like Wealth Migrate and what Scott's doing. Anybody can invest and get a little bit of some real estate, and you don't have to do the work yourself. So I remember that, and I said to Kevin, I said, Kevin, no, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna buy this second house and keep the first one. And thank goodness I didn't listen to his financial advice, but he was an FA, but that's about how much he knew about property, FA, right? So you got to be very careful who you listen to. And that's why Scott has asked me to come and speak to you about UK markets. I've been doing this quite a long time. We met each other, I think it was about 2005, 2006. We did some co-presenting about property. And then we bumped into each other again on Necker Island. And it was because one of our mentors, we both invest a lot of money in ourselves to get better. And I believe one of the reasons we're both quite successful is because we're always investing in ourselves. By the way, that's the very best investment you can make, followed very closely by investing in real estate, I believe. And one of our mentors had been the year before. He was asked if we wanted to invite some people along. It was a paid trip, and we pay quite a lot because we contribute a lot of money to Virgin Unite. So it means Richard Branson is there for the full week. We have breakfast, lunch, and dinner because his wife was actually on holiday. I don't quite know where you go on a holiday from Necker Island, but she'd gone on a holiday somewhere, maybe visiting family. So he was with us the whole week. It was absolutely amazing. And, you know, as Scott said, we had a great, the rules in Necker, you work in the morning, you cannot work in the afternoon. Fantastic rules. And we did lots of great things. And I have lots of pictures of which I can't show us, Scott, because of some of the activities went on. But still, your secret's safe with me, Scott. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm paying a lot of money to go to Necker Island. And it was okay because a lot of it went to charity. And obviously you can offset when you make investments like this. It was obviously a business training event. You can offset that entire investment through your business, which is what I did. But I must admit, when I paid the amount of money that I paid and I turned up, I didn't expect I'll be sharing a room with anybody. And I find out I'm sharing with Scott Pickin. Could have been worse, but it was a bit of a surprise. Anyway, that's a little bit of an introduction there. Just saying that, you know, I've been in property a long time. You've got to be very careful who you listen to. So let me tell you, share a little bit about what's happening in the UK market and specifically some of the opportunities for you. So let me just share my slides here. And this is a bit of an update for you. You might already be investing in property. You might be in the UK, you might be around the world, but I'm just going to focus in on kind of what's happening in the UK, what's happened, what are the circumstances, and what are the opportunities for you? I only have Scott said I've got about 4 hours, so I'll be as quick as I can in that 4 hours. And I'm only joking. I've got about another 25 minutes or so. Let me share with you what I think is going on and the opportunities for you. I'm talking about why the UK is a great place to invest. I am obviously biased, but there are some really good reasons why this is a fantastic country to be investing in. I'm talking about what's happening in the property market right now. What's the impact of the autumn budget? We had a new government come in July. After 14 years, the Labour Party have got into power. What's the impact of that? I'm also going to talk about what are the changes affecting landlords. So property owners who are renting properties out, there's a lot of stuff happening there, and that's changing the landscape, which you need to understand if you're looking to invest. And then my predictions for the 2025 property market. So and obviously then the opportunities for you. So very briefly, I mean, Scott said a little bit about me, and I don't go on too long, but I think whenever you listen to anybody, whether it's a YouTube video, a podcast, or on a training like this, you need to ask yourself, well, who is this person and how can they help me? Because it's very easy for anybody to pop up and have an image, a brand, a presence on social media. But I think, Scott would have asked me if he hadn't known me a very long time, but I just want to give you some of my credentials. So I set up the very first networking anywhere in the UK for property investors called the Property Investors Network. That was back in 2003. And I did that because by that point, I'd been investing 8 years. I was able to leave my full-time job at Cadbury's as initially a graduate trainee, then a senior manager in 2001. I hadn't completely replaced my income in 2001, but I had enough to live off and cover my expenses. And I don't know about you, I love Cadbury's. I love the people, I love the company, I love the product, but I love my freedom a little bit more than that. And so in 2001, I left, and by 2003, I had completely replaced my former salary. But I don't know about you, but I found investing very lonely. And in fact, if you're in business or property, whatever you do, the more successful you become, the less people you can actually speak to about it. Because all my friends were working, my family had their own homes, but didn't really have investment properties. They didn't know what I was doing. And it's a very, very lonely journey. And that's why I set up the Property Investors Network, purely to serve myself, really, to connect with other like-minded people from whom I could learn. And I realized about the importance of plugging into an environment and connecting with other people, because although I'd done pretty well, I knew I could have done better if I had a bit of help. And I'd started investing in myself in about 1998 in personal development. In 2000, I attended a Tony Robbins event, learned all about really the importance of environment and putting yourself back in the gym and working those mental muscles. And that's why I wanted to create that. Now, these meetings, people ask me, how come I didn't have to work? And I started to teach people how to invest. And I realized that's actually what my real passion was. And that's why 22 years later, I'm still doing it. There's no one in the UK who has been consistently teaching people about successful property investing as long as I have. And I guess that longevity kind of speaks volumes, really. And in 2007, I really got serious about this because I got fed up. As Scott says, a lot of people, they come and do training, but they don't do anything with it. And that really frustrates me. I want people to be successful. They've got to do the work. And so I created a year-long mastermind program. The idea being we get together back in the gym once a month to share what we've been doing, to be held to account, to learn and be inspired from other people, and just make sure we're moving forward each month and making progress. So that's my mastermind program. I wrote a book called Property Magic, became an Amazon #1 bestseller in 2008. I've written there's a 6th edition, and #7 will be coming out in 2025 because everything's kind of changed here. There's about 100,000 copies in circulation. We sold quite a few internationally as well. So it's probably the best read property book in the UK. And then I set up a business called Crowd Property. As I mentioned earlier, in 2012, 2013, I was doing mentoring with a guy called Roger Hamilton, who was also mentoring Scott. So we kind of reconnected through that. And Scott set up Wealth Migrate, which was this crowdfunding, peer-to-peer funding platform that sold equity in properties. A great way to get a piece of the pie. And I set up a slightly different, but also a crowdfunding platform, which was selling debt. And the reason I did that is I was doing some bigger developments myself. I was turning a couple of care homes into blocks of apartments. The biggest was a care home into 45 separate apartments. I've done a pub conversion to a guest house. I've done a couple of houses split into flats, and I was funding those initially with my money. Then I ran out of money, as everyone does. So I teach my students to use other people's money. And that's one of the things you need to understand as an investor. We use leverage of money, leverage of time, leverage of experience to get much better results than we could just on our own. But I realized that a lot of people on my database wouldn't necessarily have £50,000 or multiples of that to lend me. And I thought they might want to get a better return on the money than sitting in the bank. And on the other hand, lots of people doing my mastermind program who are coming at really good development projects, but were struggling to fund them. So I put a plan, and I came up with this idea by going to a business event. And so that's why I continue to educate myself. At this event I'd been to before, I was one of the guest speakers. There was other person there was talking about crowdfunding. I thought, that's amazing. So I set up this business at about the same kind of time that Wealth Migrate was set up. And we only fund UK developments. We're an FCA regulated business. And we raised money for the platform. So our last valuation was 32 million. I'm not the only shareholder, unfortunately. I'm the major shareholder, but actually I get other people to run that. And I'm not saying this to impress you, but to impress upon you. I know a lot about lending and borrowing money. I know a lot about investing. I've done pretty well, but also I've made loads of mistakes. Anyone who's successful in property, if they're honest, they'll tell you they've made loads of mistakes. And the good thing about learning from someone like me or Scott is you don't have to make those mistakes yourself, okay? So it's a little bit about me, a little bit of credibility. Let me now put this into context. And one thing I want to share, I have a unique advantage. Nobody else in the UK has this. I have a unique advantage because we have 50 plus network meetings all over the UK every month, apart from August and December when we were all off on holiday, and a couple in the Netherlands as well. I have this unique position to have my ear to the ground to hear what's happening at grassroots level. So very often we can see trends happening around the country months and months before things are in the press, months and months before you see the effect on the property market. So I have this kind of bit of a unique insight, which hopefully some of that I'll share with you today. So why is the UK a great place to invest? Well, look, out of all the places around the world, we have a pretty stable political system. You know, it's a democracy. There are some, I don't want to mention any place, there are some places where you can invest and, you know, frankly, they could change the rules for overseas investors and there's nothing you could do about it. That's not going to happen here in the UK. We have this supply and demand situation. Basic economics is we do not have enough supply to meet the growing demand for accommodation. As I said, the Labour government came into power in July in this landslide victory. For the 14 years before that, there was the Conservative Party. And Conservatives are supposed to be supporting free enterprise and entrepreneurship. And actually, some of the things they did weren't really doing that. And so I'm not surprised that many people decided not to vote for the Conservative Party. And the Labour Party actually had a violence. Team, if we can mute that person, please. And the Labour Party actually had this landslide victory, not because they got so many votes. In fact, at the previous election, there was a different leader of the Labour Party. And he actually got, that was Jeremy Corbyn, who's a very, very left-wing Labour leader. He got more votes than the Labour Party this time. But because so many people didn't vote for the Conservative Party, or they voted for alternatives, because the Labour Party had this landslide election. And what that means is now they're in power, they pretty much can do whatever they want because they have this majority of the MPs. But interestingly, both the Labour government and the Conservative opposition, they both agree on one thing in particular. They both estimate that the UK needs approximately 300,000 new homes every year to meet the growing demand for accommodation. 300,000 new homes. And in fact, the Labour Party and the Conservative Party committed during the campaigning, they were both going to build 1.5 million homes over their 5-year term, i.e. 300,000 a year. Now, of course, governments in the UK don't actually build property. They create the environment to stimulate people like me and developers to build properties. Okay, customers of Crowd Property will build properties. But still, they need to change the environment to make that happen. Now, the reality is last year, there were probably only something like, I think, 150 or 160,000 properties built. So nowhere near the 300,000 that's needed to happen every year for the next 5 years for the Labour government to meet their commitment of building 1.5. In fact, it's probably the biggest lie in politics, and it would be for them or the Conservatives. I'm not being political. I'm just saying it's never, ever going to happen because we just don't have enough trained builders. A lot of builders are getting old and retiring. They haven't had the apprenticeship schemes. The planning system is a complete nightmare. It takes a long time for projects to go through. And also, we just don't have enough materials either. We saw massive price increase during COVID because of supply chain effects. That started to recover, but we just do not have the ability to build 300,000 homes a year. But the fundamental point here is the fact we do not have enough supply. That is why the UK is one of the places where generally, on average, over the long term, we see property prices rise. Prices don't always go up. We, like everyone else, had a big crash in 2008 as a result of the global financial crisis. And in 2022 into 23, we had a bit of a dip after the unexpected boom during COVID. The reason property market boomed during COVID was the government printed so much money. They were doing furlough, they were doing bounce back loans, and a lot of that money wasn't meant to, but probably got into the property market and caused this bit of this boom. So that's a bit of the supply we need to understand. And that happens because we have a growing population. We have a large number of immigration into the UK. Some officially, a lot of it on boats, which is not so official. And we just cannot build enough property quickly enough. And anybody can own property. So you don't have to be a UK citizen. Anyone from around the world can own property in the UK. And a lot of people like to plant money into the UK and invest in property because it's seen as this politically stable place and anybody can invest here. It's very easy to get financing. If you're an overseas investor, there are not as many lenders and you'll pay a slightly higher rate, but you can still get financing. And also one thing we do in the UK, which doesn't happen in much of Europe, we can refinance property. So we buy something, as the value goes up, we can refinance it, we can take some cash out, we can go and buy more property. So this is an advanced market, and it's pretty advanced in America as well. One big difference between the UK and America, generally in America, and I'm talking about residential property here, when you buy a residential property investment, most people will get a 30-year repayment mortgage. At the end of that 30 years, they've paid off that loan. Here in the UK, most buy-to-let investment properties are interest-only mortgages. You don't have to pay back the capital because they know the value is going to go up over the 20 years. It might double and double again. So what that means is you make more cash flow. This is one of the reasons the UK is a very popular place for people to invest. Now, when the Labour Party came in, they did a budget in October, November, and it's the first one for 14 years. It probably wasn't as bad as many people were expecting. You know, the Labour, who are supposed to be a more left-wing, a more socialist kind of party and government, I think they played the political game. They leaked some things that they thought might happen, like they were talking about the wealthy taking on the burden of the tax requirements. So business owners, property investors, they were talking about changes to capital gains tax, which is the tax you pay when you sell a property that's not your own home. But it wasn't really that bad. Having said that, they did increase taxes by £40 billion. And unfortunately for businesses, the main increase was the national insurance contribution. This is what employers take from their employees or pay on behalf of their employees, from 13.8% up to 15%. Now, that might seem it's only a small increase. No, it's a 9% plus increase where it was. So it means it's much more expensive for employers to employ people. Surprisingly, capital gains tax was unchanged for now, but they changed the rate of capital gains tax for non-property assets. If you sell shares or cryptocurrency, that's gone up to the same rate. And it depends on which tax level you're at, a lower rate or higher rate taxpayer. But we could see that increase in the future. I wouldn't be surprised that happens. I say, yeah, non-residential property CGT goes in line with property, same rates. One of the big things they did, they added 66% increase in stamp duty. Stamp duty is a tax that we have to pay. It's called land SDLT, stamp duty land tax. It's a tax we have to pay when we buy a property. It's a sliding scale. If you buy a cheaper property, you pay less. If you buy a really expensive property, you pay a lot more. But in addition to the sliding scale, as someone buying a second home or an investment property, we used to pay an extra 3% stamp duty. If someone was an overseas investor, they'd pay an extra 5% stamp duty. What they've now said, that is increasing for anyone, UK or overseas, up to 5%. So there's an extra 5% you have to pay to find when you're buying a property, and that money goes to the government. And then finally, in terms of the budget, and this has an impact because this affects the sentiment of investors, which I'll come to in a moment. Personal IHT inheritance tax allowance was frozen at 325,000. So in the UK, if you own assets, when you die, they will tax your estate on your net assets. So look at how much do you owe? It could be property, shares, business. What's it worth? They take off the debt to work out the net assets, and they tax you on that at 40%. Now you can give everything to your partner, your spouse, but then you have a personal allowance of 325. Over that, you pay 40% tax. Now, it's been 325 since 2009, and they've frozen it now till 2030. So in other words, the amounts that they allow you to not pay tax on will have been the same for 21 years. And yet, obviously, the value of the assets have all gone up massively in time. So although they're not changing the tax break, in reality, you're still paying more tax. It's a very clever stealth tax by not changing that. So the government is raising lots of money. Don't want to get political here, but they probably haven't done enough. They're probably going to come back and want to get more tax. What does all this actually mean to you? That's the important thing. So this 5% stamp duty, many people buying property are going to think, well, that's a bit too much. Deals don't really stack up anymore. I don't know if I really want to buy property. And I think a lot of investors will take some time to get their head around this, to get used to this extra cost. Exactly the same thing happened in 2016 when the then Conservative government introduced this extra 3% stamp duty. And a lot of people said, oh, deals don't work anymore. They don't stack up. We can't buy property. You just get used to it. We just negotiate better and get it off the price in the first place. But what this means is for a period of time, 6 to 9 months maybe, there will be less people buying property because many people think it's too expensive for them to do that. And also in the UK right now, when prices have come down a bit, we are in what's called a buyer's market. That means it's in the favor of buyers because there are more sellers than there are buyers. What that means is that not as many people are buying property as are selling it. So again, supply and demand, generally prices come down. Now, this is an average. There are some areas where prices are going up, some areas where they're stagnating, and some where they're definitely coming down. It is all about the supply and demand. Because there are so many sellers, they're going to become more motivated. When I teach my investing, I say we always want to find and help motivated sellers. These are people who have a property related problem and they think selling this property is going to solve that problem. And we try and come up with an ethical win-win solution that works for them and works for us. If you give someone else what they need, they're far more likely to give you what you need. So they're going to be more and more of these sellers. Now, because there's more regulation coming, I'll touch on that in a minute. It's going to put off some of the amateur investors as well. So there are less new people. There's always people who are new coming into the market. There's always people who are retiring from the market. But the proportion is there are more people leaving and exiting the market than there are coming in, because all the new changes I'm going to talk about in a moment are scaring a lot of amateurs off. There's also an opportunity because of that. We can work with landlords who've got properties that they're looking to get rid of, and we can either take those on or we can do some special things. And I don't have time to talk about it now, but when I do this event with Scott in London, I'm going to explain exactly what are the opportunities for landlords, whether you want to invest direct yourself or whether you want to invest through the Wealth Migrate platform. And there will actually be opportunities for you to earn something like a 6% secured return on your money without any of the hassle, without any of the maintenance, any of the management, without having to be on the mortgage, and also benefit from some of the upside in the capital growth. If that sounds interesting, just put interesting into the chat box, because that's going to be some of the opportunities that I'm finding with Wealth Migrate and we're putting onto the platform. Yeah, and obviously the fact that you don't have to have a mortgage, you can put as much or little as you want. You don't have to have the hassle of looking after it, but you still get a 6% return plus some profit share. That's quite an attractive, and it looks like lots of people are saying interesting. Yeah, okay, great. So what are some of the changes? Well, right now, for the last since February 2022, when interest rates started to go up. And the reason interest rates go up is we had very high inflation. All the money that was being printed, spent by the government during the COVID years, you're obviously going to have to pay for that at some point. And we had inflation over 10% in the UK. So the Bank of England, whose base rate was 0.5% for an entire decade after the credit crunch, we had a 0.5% base rate. So many landlords had mortgages of maybe base rate 0.5% plus 2 or maybe 3%. So they had very, very low mortgages relatively compared to pre-credit crunch rates. And the Bank of England uses interest rates as a macroeconomic tool to control inflation. So generally, as inflation goes up, the Bank of England will increase their base rate. That makes it more expensive to borrow. That slows down the economy and inflation comes down. So they started to increase rates. Then we had a very, very bad budget by Liz Truss. The markets hated it and interest rates shot up massively. I think it went up to as high as, I think it was 5.25% for base rate. So that's been very, very high compared to the rates we've had for the previous decade or so. In 2017, we had something called Section 24 come in that was phased over 4 years. And what it basically means is if you own property in your own name and you have a mortgage, which most of the landlords do, and about 2 million landlords in the UK, by the way, and most of them owned in their own name. And if you're a high rate taxpayer, which not all, but many investors are, basically you pay a lot more tax on your investing. Now, this is why many people in the UK are now buying in a company structure, because currently companies are not affected by Section 24. But what we've had is we've had a lot of people when the interest rates went up, people paying more on their mortgages, and then you had the scenario, this double whammy, where people were maybe not making any cash flow from their property, but from a tax point of view, because they couldn't offset all of their interest, they still had to pay tax to the tax man. And so many said, well, this isn't singlets just don't really work. So that's why one of the reasons we're seeing many, many landlords wanting to sell up. Also, the Conservative Party government at the time started their renters reform bill. The Labour Party has taken on and obviously changed the name because they can't possibly support the same thing, calling it renters' right bill. And one of the things they're doing is getting rid of what's called a Section 21. That was how we get rid of tenants if we want to get rid of tenants. We can still get rid of them if they don't pay their rent, but things are tightening up. And again, a lot of landlords don't like this. And because the government has this landslide election, they can pretty much bring in whatever they want to do. So we don't know what they could do and what they could bring in. What this means is this is causing massive uncertainty, causing paralysis for most investors. They're sitting back, waiting to see what might happen. But this is why it's such an opportunity for you, because it means there's not much competition. So lots of landlords selling up, not much competition. That means opportunity. So what does all this mean for the property market? Well, is it going to be a crash in 2025? Some people think there is because all these landlords selling, etc. I don't think there's going to be a crash. Remember, there's not enough accommodation in the UK. If you have a good rental property in the UK, there's high demand. It will rent really quickly, and rents have gone up massively over the last couple of years as well. I actually expect property prices on average, and there's always going to be different pockets, but on average, I think we're going to see property prices start to rise in Q2 of 2025. Why? Well, when the spring comes, people start thinking about property again. I think people will have starting to get used to this extra stamp duty. They've got used to the interest rates. Interest rates might come down a bit. And I think people will be looking to get into property again. It does, of course, depend on what happens to the Bank of England base rate, the interest rate. And obviously, many people are many people are expecting that the Bank of England base rate will come down further in 2025. But this completely depends on if inflation goes below the 2% target. Remember, it was 10% a year ago. It's come down. The former Conservative government were very happy that that's come down. It was starting to go down. It went below 2%, but it's jumped up a little bit to, I think, 2.7, 2.6. It's come down a bit. So it really depends what happens. My feeling is that we are not really seeing the true effects of inflation yet. The Labour government have introduced an increase in the minimum wage So anyone on the minimum wage is going to get a 6.7% increase. That has set the precedent. A lot of unions, which obviously are typically supporting the Labour government, they are going to want to see inflation busting pay rises. And I'm sure the government will look after all the civil servants and the millions of people who actually work for the government indirectly. And so I believe we could actually see more inflation in 2025. I don't think we're going to get to the double digits we had post-COVID, but if we get inflation, then I think the Bank of England will be forced to use interest rates as a macroeconomic tool. So if we do get inflation and they put interest rates up, this could slow the growth of the market. However, I think in general, I think we probably will still get some growth. But you know what? In reality, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if the market goes up or if it goes down. If you're playing the long-term game, which I think is the way for true generational wealth, is to hold property for long term. Of course, we want to buy at a good opportunity. It's a great time to buy now because there's not much competition. But if we're holding for the long term, it doesn't really matter what happens short term, as long as we know we could rent it out, and as long as we know it makes cash flow. And some parts of the world, in Australia, they've had negative gearing. They like to invest in property, or in past have invested. It makes a loss. They can offset against their taxes, etc. But here in the UK, if you're investing and looking to get into investment opportunities, you only want to invest in that gives you actual positive cash flow. It must make money every single day. So you're getting a return on investment, and then you can benefit from the long-term growth as well. So I'm coming towards the end of my presentation. I'm going to hand back to Scott. My final recommendations for you. Look, there's always going to be an opportunity for those who are ready to seize it. There'll be hardly any competition from other property investors for the next 6 to 9 months. Always find motivated sellers who really need to sell their property. We can come up with an ethical win-win solution. And that fact, rather than thinking about just buying property, you can think about creative strategies such as vendor finance, where the seller actually helps you fund the purchase of the property, or a purchase option. We don't actually buy it, but you control that property. And I believe we should see some really good capital growth in the UK over the next 10 years. So with all that in mind, I do hope that you consider the UK as one of the places, as part of your diversified portfolio, you should be investing. And if that's an interest to you, Scott's going to talk about our event we're going to do in February in London. I would love to see you there. I'd love to personally talk you through specifically what we're doing in the UK, talk about the opportunities that are available for you, combine it with Scott's international knowledge as well. Scott, that's it from me. Handing back to you, and I wish everyone good luck with their 2025 property investing.
Awesome, Simon. I really appreciate it. And I know that, well, firstly, thank you very much. My single most important strategy in investing is partnership. So as always, someone can go and try and figure it out whether they live on the ground in England or whether they live internationally. And they can go try to do it all themselves. And they're like, why? Like, you got a guy that's been doing it for 25, nearly 30 years or whatever it is. And I know you got to bounce now in terms of another presentation. But and I know you're going to come back and join us for the Q&A. I really, really appreciate that. And yeah, let's let me let you go now, because I'm watching the clock for you. Yeah, and then I'll see you back just now for the Q&A, basically.
You will do. Perfect. See you shortly.
Awesome. So I hope you really enjoyed that, and I hope you just got a sense. I mean, literally a whiff of what is possible in the UK. Simon alluded to a couple of things there, which I think are really, really exciting. Him and I have been talking a lot about where the market is going and how you can take advantage of the market. But for me, it's thinking like an institutional investor. It's doing it better. It's not just going out and trying to buy houses, and it's actually looking at how you can do it. And he spoke about equity release and equity financing, etc., which are some really, really creative ways to be able to get access to the market without having to have the hassle of managing tenants and broken toilets and everything in between. So he's literally going to be taking us through that. And one of the things that I'm super excited about with our London workshop that we're putting together is that you'll literally be able to be on the ground, be able to learn from him, be able to learn from me. Now, this is my interest in the chat box. Who here knows myself? Like who's heard of Scott Picken before? So we started off with Simon. I'd love to know how many people here have not heard of myself, because I just want to give you a quick introduction to who I am and why Simon and I are working together, because we fundamentally believe that you've got to have local experts. And if you want to diversify, you've got to have local experts in the market and you've also got to be able to invest internationally. So I did my first property project when I was 13 years old. I did my first property development when I was 22 years old. I did my first London property when I was 24 years old. So this is actually in Wimbledon, in London, Zone 3. I then built a company in 2004 called International Property Solutions, where I helped thousands of people buy houses or apartments in South Africa, hundreds in London and the UK, hundreds in Australia, and hundreds in America. But it was all residential property. And what I always find really interesting is that, I mean, who here loves Monopoly? Just my interest. Like, I know I love Monopoly. I still love Monopoly. I'll happily play Monopoly. And for those of you who love Monopoly, what is better, to own a greenhouse or a red hotel? So just type in there, green or red. Like, if you enjoy Monopoly, and whether you played it as a kid or whether you're playing it as an adult, which one's better, the green or the red? And I can see lots of people are saying red, red, red. So well done to all of you that enjoy your Monopoly. Now, let's get a little bit more confusing. Which one's better to own? 4 greenhouses or 1 red? 4 greenhouses or 1 red hotel? And it's interesting because this is the point where people get a bit confused. And the thing is that I can see lots of people, this is where it's definitely 50-50 between people giving me the answers. Well, and Gavin says Elof Street. The bottom line is that if you play lots of Monopoly, you'll know that it is far better to own red hotels. You know, that's the fastest and easiest way to be able to win the game. And what's interesting is that we from a young age, we taught that we should be earning red hotels, or let's call it commercial property. And yet the majority of us are only investing in residential because we think that is the only option. Having helped investors from 178 countries around the world, what I realized was that people are stuck in country. They tend to only be able to buy houses in the country they're from. There's massive barriers and hassles once people want to go into commercial property or international property. And then there's a huge amount of complexity and difficulty in terms of tax, banking, structures, and everything else. And what we realized was that the 99% just couldn't invest like the top 1%. Now, I'd read all the books. I'd been on all the courses. I wanted to get into commercial. And then we had the crash Simon already referred to it in 2008, 2009, where, as an example, in London, the property market lost 20%. And I had an opportunity here. I don't know if you know this developer, Barrett Homes, very well known in the UK. I had an opportunity just outside Wimbledon to buy 48 units. 48 units, we were buying them at a 40% discount. There was an 8% cash on cash return, cash flow positive, £440 a month per unit. They're already tenanted, already furnished. And I literally went out to my 2,500 investors. I said, this is a no-brainer. This represents a real opportunity. And there's one small problem. We had to raise £10 million quickly. And I just couldn't get people to work together. And it was this situation that created so much pain, because I realized this is why mom and pop investors get stuck in retail investing. And yet the institutions are going in and snapping up these amazing deals. We literally could have bought units in Wimbledon for £160,000. And for all of you in the UK, you'll know that those properties now are well over £750,000 over the last, 13, 14 years that it would have taken. I had a second opportunity when I was in Bondi Beach in Sydney. And again, I met 2 very wealthy gentlemen. It was 2009. I said, what are you investing in? They said, medical buildings. And I said, well, think about it. Why medical? And I said, well, I've no idea. I've never heard of medical. I've got all the degrees. I've got an honors degree, cum laude, a master's degree, cum laude. It's irrelevant. I said, why medical? I've never heard of medical. They said, well, think about it. Doctors never, ever leave their premises. I was like, yep, that makes sense. Think back to when you were a child, and I'm almost sure that you'll find the same thing. Secondly, people always need doctors. So no matter what happens in the world economy, people need doctors. And secondly, thirdly, doctors make great doctors, but they're not great accountants, so they sign very good long-term favorable leases. I was like, that's a bit of a no-brainer. And so I said, how do I participate? They said, we're raising $40 million. There's 8 slots of $5 million each. And so I literally ran around to all the different investors I had, tried to get them to participate, couldn't get them to participate. And again, that company went on the Australian Stock Exchange to be listed, and now is worth over $700 million. And what I realized was that the 99% cannot invest like the top 1%. For me personally, and I don't know if there's anyone else in the room, but I thought I had to do it all myself. I spent 14 years reading the books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Real Estate Riches. You can see here, this is actually me and Dr. Dolph DeRus, on this courthouse steps in Phoenix. I paid $8,000 to go on a buyer's trip with Dolph DeRus so I could figure out how to buy houses on my own in America. And my whole philosophy for 14 years was go out there and do it myself, do it myself, do it myself. And I bought a number of properties, 16 to be exact, myself, but I was trying to do everything myself. And then I had the privilege in 2010 of actually going to Fiji and doing a course with Tony Robbins. And what I learned was that there was a far simpler way to do this. Again, Simon, to put you in the loop, what I was saying is that you could literally go and try and buy a house, do it all yourself, or you can partner. Just put in the chat box. Do you think you're going to be more successful if you go and buy a buy-to-let property in England on your own, or if you partner with Simon? Just as an example, which one? On your own or partner? Which one do you think would be more successful? And that's the lesson I learned from Tony Robbins. I had the privilege, not many people can say this, but I had the privilege of actually going into business with Tony Robbins. I got the rights for his business in Africa. And through that experience, I realized it was all about partnership. I did my first commercial building in 2014. It was a big project. It was a $16 million project. We had to raise $6 million. We had 82 investors from 5 different continents. And we bought 6 medical buildings. And what's fascinating is that those buildings have paid us an 8% cash on cash return and a 15% IRR. And I always say to people, would you like returns like this? And, from there, we evolved over the last 10 years. We've helped people now in 178 countries, facilitated over $1.3 billion, paid out $31 million in dividends. And so whether people want to invest in America, England, Europe, Australia, or even South Africa, we no longer make people choose. When people say, why diversify? Well, possibly it's about protecting your wealth. It's about a plan B. It's about peace of mind. And ultimately, it's about freedom. We live in crazy times. And Simon, you alluded to this. In the last couple of years, we've had the Ukraine war, inflation reaching record highs, interest rates going up, fuel prices going up, stock market all over the place, both up and down, load shedding, the Israeli conflict, the assassination attempt, Labour with record margins, the GNU, Biden quitting the race, Trump's landslide, and hot off the press from today is the inauguration. And what does that all mean? And, the number one thing, if you learn from some of the best people in the world, the number one thing to deal with that uncertainty is diversification. How do you actually diversify across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time? And I wanted to give you a quick demonstration, just as an example here, because some people say, but it sounds too good to be true. And what I wanted to show you was, if you literally log into our platform and you go in here, and I log in quickly for you. Oh, sorry, what did I do there? And I sign in. And I'm not going to give you a demonstration today in terms of how the platform works. But in simple terms, right now, we've got 4 opportunities. We've got one in London. It's a private equity opportunity. We've got a debt opportunity in Austin. We've got a industrial building in Phoenix, Arizona. And we've got a mixed-use opportunity in Germany. By the way, Simon, in the very near future, I need one of your properties here in the UK on. But just type in the chat box quickly. Where would you like to start if we were playing a little bit of global Monopoly? Do you want to start in London, in Austin, in Phoenix, or in Germany? Just type in the chat box. Where would you like to get started? So I can see Alan said the UK, Germany, London. Okay, a lot of people for London. Okay, cool. So let's get started with London. And I'm just going to give you a very quick example here. So I go in, I can get started from £10 or $10. I literally go, I digitally sign the agreement. I can download the agreement. I go agree, and I go make investment. And what you've just seen is me invest into the UK. Now, what about we get a bit of America? Let's go and do an industrial property. I know most people don't think that they would be investing in industrial logistics in the heart of Phoenix, right in, close to the CBD in Phoenix, one of the top 3 markets in America. And again, I go along and I say, right, I want to invest here. And I digitally sign the agreement and I go agree. And you've just seen me invest into America. And what about, let's just get a little bit of diversification. We want to go into Europe. We're going to do a mixed use deal in Germany, again, from $10. I digitally sign the agreement, I go agree. And if I show you now, I mean, you've literally seen me do that in a minute or two. You can see that I've diversified across the UK, America, and Germany. And so what I tend to say to people, and what Simon and I are going to take to a whole nother level, is that in the old days, you know, we were kind of stuck with one option in terms of, let's say, the greenhouses. But now it can be a mixture of the greenhouses and the red hotels. And I wanted to just share with you what this means in terms of actual returns. So if I log in here, I've literally logged into the back end, and you can see these are two industrial buildings that we invested in. And every single month, these deals pay out just short of about, well, just short of what, $4,000 pretty much. You can see that's December, November, October, September, August, July, etc. You know, as another example, you've got this one here. So rather than buy one apartment, this was in Oklahoma where we invested in 750 units in multifamily. And again, you can see here, every single month, every quarter, about $6,400 paid out every quarter. And I always joke with people, you're not dealing with tenants, you're not dealing with broken toilets. That's why I'm so excited by Simon sharing this new opportunity to get into the UK, because it's the same mindset where you don't actually have to go and do it all yourself in terms of this process. And the last thing I wanted to show you here, and I need to get my phone quickly because this one's got good security. But, you know, people say, you know, you don't want to be in office. And it depends again, because if you've got the right partners, you know, Simon just showed you in the UK, you know, some people would say it's not the right time. Well, it depends, because if you got the right partners, you know, this was an office building we invested in back in December of 2020. It's paid us $6,300 every quarter and hasn't missed a single month, or sorry, a single quarter since you know we bought that property. So that's what I wanted to share with you. You know, we've got plenty of testimonials and people from around the world in terms of their process and what they've done. We've always been a community-based company, and for me, I'll share this by email for you. But Cynthia's a teacher. And, you know, some people say, but I don't have the money and I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the time. Well, I disagree. You know, I fundamentally believe that this is accessible now to everyone. You know, why I'm excited about doing this live event with you in London, Simon, is because I actually started on this is in Putney in London in 2004. So this is literally me, my very first event in 2004 in London. You can see me on the Thames here. And I did multiple events all over England. And that's how we actually built the company 9 years ago. From that, it evolved into buyers trips, going around the world and investing, whether it was America or Australia or England, in terms of people being able to invest. And so I'm going to put up a little poll for people, and they can literally tell me, where's it gone now? Where's polls gone? Let me just stop sharing so I can find it quickly for you.
While you're looking for that, Scott, let me feel for you for a second while you're looking for that. And it's great you talked about, you know, the teacher. And I think sometimes people think, and I used to think this, when I first met my first landlord and he told me about it, I thought, wow, when I'm wealthy, when I'm rich, I'd like to invest. But actually, I think if you think that way, it's never going to happen. What you should do is start investing now, and that's how you become wealthy.
Yeah, no, completely. And I think that's what I love about working with you, because often it's about the mindset, and that's where the partnership can help you. Because one of the things I've learned, you know, you can go and read all the books, you can go on all the courses, but you can fast forward so quickly by partnering with someone. Like, you don't need to know everything about industrial property in Phoenix if there's a partner on the ground that really knows what they're doing. You don't have to know how to invest in UK property if there's a partner on the ground yourself that knows what they're doing in terms of it. And so someone can accelerate not only getting access, but also the returns. And in my opinion, and again, I'm not giving financial advice, but with a lot less risk, because you're actually dealing with partners that really know what they're doing in terms of the process.
And the other thing is, then you can then specialize, because if someone is an overseas investor, I think, okay, where should I invest? Well, I've heard of London, I'll invest in London. Well, actually, whilst London might be good, it may not actually be the place to give you the best return. And so actually, when you have a local investor, you can find the sites that most people don't know about. For example, I am looking at a site close to Plymouth at the moment for an industrial centre. It's an off-market opportunity, and that might be something we can bring to the Wealth Migrate platform. And we have a brand new product, which we've not ever spoken about publicly, which is called an equity release product that we will be launching for the very first time in London at this 3-day event that we are doing. And I think people are going to be very, very excited about that. A great way to invest in proven residential property with no development risk at all.
Yeah, and I think, Simon, I mean, what's important basically with what you just said is that, again, you're partnering with someone like yourself. I don't have to go out and find the properties. I don't have to manage the tenants. I don't have to deal with broken toilets. And that's why I always say to people, it's investing more at an institutional level versus kind of investing at that kind of retail mom and pop level. And, obviously tonight we've just tipped the top of the iceberg in terms of what's possible. In terms of the substance, that's what we've put together in terms of this 3 days that we're putting together in London. So, on day one, it's all about the UK property investment strategies. Simon, it's his home country. I'm the guest and he's literally going to be taking us through, like, what are these opportunities? Maybe just a little bit of a teaser, Simon, in terms of this equity release, some of the new age kind of strategies that you're looking at. For me, you're not just going to teach people just how to do the stock standard, go buy a house, buy it, let. It's going to be how we take it to the next level,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you want to learn how, we can teach you that, but that's not what this event is about. And people have already done training with me who already understand about how to find opportunities. I'm going to be talking about something that I've not really talked. We're going to go a bit deeper into specifically what is happening in the UK and how to find opportunities. If you want to do that yourself, we will talk about that, because I'll explain how we are finding opportunities, because I think it's important to understand where opportunities come from. But then really it's the way of, and I like this, it's this kind of institutional level of investing, that kind of hands-off approach, which normally you could only do if you've got millions and millions of pounds, but actually you can do it from £100 or $100, So that's what we're going to show, and exactly why we have created certain products and what we look for, what makes a good investment, in our opinion, and what is not a good investment. And I think, as I said earlier, any idiots can buy property, and many idiots do buy property. And the great thing, if you buy a bad property, given time, as long as it makes money, it will probably right itself. But you've tied up money in something you shouldn't really do. You want to be investing smart. And the current market opportunity that's out there, you should only be doing really great deals. And that's what we're going to do, how to do really great deals, whether you're doing them yourself or whether you're partnering at an institution level. That's what we're going to teach. And I think I'm doing the first morning of that first day.
Yeah. And I think that's the point, is that, start with local and what the opportunities are in England, and then start to understand what is diversification. How do we actually participate in diversification? Day two, start looking at the different types of assets, the asset classes and the risks. What do we do and where do we invest? Then, it's about building a diversified portfolio. This is actually about asset allocation, which ultimately equals about 85% of your total return by the age of 65. And then in day three, it's all about risk management. We're talking a lot tonight already about partners and how do you find the right partners? How do you avoid the mistakes in terms of who do you actually partner with? And then finally about putting it all into practice. My logic in life, don't just go and talk about it. Actually, put it into practice, leave with a plan, and actually be able to execute in terms of that process. I think in terms of if you want to go and read all about it, you can literally read about module 1 in terms of the breakdown here of understanding diversification. Module 2, the types of investments, in terms of where you're looking at. Module 3, building a diversified portfolio. Module 4, risk management. And module 5, putting it all into practice. And I think for anyone that turns up, you'll automatically get access to the 30-day passive income challenge, where we literally take you through in 30 days, help you get on the platform, set up the wallet, fund your wallet, and be able to invest in a deal and actually earn the money within the 30 days in terms of that overall process. And if people want to go and read about it, you can go on Trustpilot, you can see what people have had to say. But, this was a gentleman that just finished this. You can see here now, just before Christmas. The process to register was super easy. You just have to follow the instructions. Wealth Migrate is well regulated, fully compliant with a strong track record. And then you can invest in deals with as little as $10 in less than 10 seconds. It's that easy. The great excitement for me was receiving my first distribution within 30 days. This means I can reinvest and begin to compound my passive income to grow my net worth towards my financial freedom. And so, yeah, if you're interested in deals like this one in Manhattan, you can literally come along to the diversificationworkshop.com. We'll talk to you about the different deals in terms of the processes. We'll also basically take you through. So it's the 5th, 6th, and 7th of February, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of February, and it's at the Radisson Blu in Heathrow. So again, I'm working with some of my partners here in terms of, you know, just a great location to be able to do it. And if you are interested, you can literally go to the link and join us, the diversificationworkshop.com. I've got another lady, Marina, who's from the UK. And again, we'll follow up with an email for you. You can actually meet them in terms of their experience and what you're looking at. So I just wanted to share with you, when Simon and I were talking, and Simon, you sort of gave me an idea of price points, and I know most people normally charge sort of thousands of pounds if people are coming along to a 2 or 3 day event. And we said, look, let's keep it affordable. Let's let people be able to get started. So for us, and I'm just going to end the poll here quickly, what we basically got in terms of the process is for a general ticket, you'll be able to come to the 3-day diversification workshop, which is being held by Simon and ourselves. You'll also get access to the 30-day passive income challenge. So you can literally start earning a passive income within 30 days. And the entry price, or the normal price, is £397, but we've actually got an early bird special of £297, and that's going to actually last until Friday. So it's one of two things. It's until Friday, or until there's only a limited number of tickets until it actually sells out in terms of that process. And I think maybe Louis and Alex, if you guys could just have a conversation, I'd appreciate it. And then in terms of, for people that are saying, right, if they want to do the upgrade to the VIP, well, this is where we'll take you through. So people are saying, I want lunch, I want parking included. So it's the hassle-free in terms of that whole process. It's the VIP working lunch with myself. You'll be able to get a one-to-one strategy session with myself where I'll literally take you through the process. You'll also get access to our 2 home study courses, Wealth Going Global and Asset Class Mastery, in terms of that process. And what we'll basically provide you over the 3 days is you'll walk away with an investor strategy sheet. You'll be very clear on your why. You'll know the top 5 countries that you actually want to invest in. You'll also be clear on the currencies. What are the top 5 currencies that you want to invest in? You'll be able to look at the top 15 assets that you want to invest in. You'll be able to go through the different assets and what you're trying to understand. Then it comes down to the partners and how you actually find those partners. And then finally, it comes down to time. And how do you actually build over time and walk away with a wealth plan and actually have everything all in one place. And lastly, there's a module on smart investing and how you can actually use technology to be able to achieve it. So that's Wealth Going Global. It's 6 modules. It's worth over $8,000 in terms of value. And it's interesting because hundreds of people have paid $497 for this process. Then the other side of the fence is Asset Class Mastery. So if you want to learn from the top partners around the world, as an example, Simon, you've done this for residential property in the UK. People, you know, whether it's industrial property or logistics or multifamily or co-living or senior or retail or first mortgage debt, which is actually the one I think you did, Simon, in terms of the first mortgage debt, that whole process. You can literally learn from some of the best partners around the world in terms of that process. And again, the value of that is over $15,000. Hundreds of people have paid just short of $2,000. If you put the two of them together, it's over $2,500. And people sometimes say to me, well, you know, Scott, I'm not sure if I can afford that. And I tend to look at people, and I'm sure, Simon, you've got a plethora of these as well, where people tried to do it on their own, and then there was the cost of the mistakes that they made. You know, this gentleman, you know, lost over $250,000 in terms of that process. And so as an invitation, we want to welcome you to come and join us in London. If you want to do a general ticket, it's as the early bird discount, it's $297, you know, pounds. You can literally go to Diversification Workshop. If you want to upgrade to the VIP, you'll get your 3 days lunches and parking included. You'll get one special VIP working lunch with myself. You'll get a one-to-one strategy with myself. So we'll literally sit down. Where are you? What are you trying to achieve? How do we help you become a global citizen and build globally diversified passive income? You'll get access, free access to Wealth Going Global, the home study course, and you'll get access to Asset Class Mastery. So you'll have the right information and the right partners. And the last thing that I'll share with you when we follow up with the email we'll literally, oh, sorry, I didn't even give you the price. So for the VIP upgrade, you can literally do it for £597. It's worth £3,500. And that's not one of these highfalutin, this is boom, boom, boom. That's literally what people have paid for it. But you'll get an upgrade, the VIP upgrade, for £597 in terms of that process. And Simon, just before I move on, you know, you and I have had the privilege of knowing each other now nearly for 2 decades. And one of the things that I think people struggle with, particularly when they're in country, is being able to get access to the partners and the knowledge. And a lot of people are doing stuff online now. But I know that you were one of the people that recommended to me, come on, Scott, let's get back in a room. Let's talk to people live. Talk to me about the power of being in the room versus kind of being online.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you know, this is great. We have people from all around the world joining us on this training, and they wouldn't otherwise be able to do that maybe. But you know what? I have run for years and years. We run physical events. We did a lot of virtual. And we got really good at running virtual events, getting results for people. But I think some magic happens when you get in the room and when you immerse yourself for 3 days, and you just think differently. And it's the conversation. Obviously, the content you put together here is amazing, and I can't actually believe the low price you've done that VIP for. And I know that's an early bird offer, only available till Friday this week. But really, I mean, that you should be charging thousands and thousands of pounds for that training. And if you did, people would come along and get massive value from it and be really happy they'd paid that. But at that low price, it's a bit of a, but I love the fact you've also got the standard ticket for someone who might just be starting and not quite sure. So I love what you've done there. But when you come and you meet people in face-to-face, you can look at them in the whites of the eyes and you see other people who are doing this. I think it builds an incredible belief, a self-belief that you can do this. Whereas when you're at home on a computer, everything feels a little bit distant. It's the connection, it's the energy, and also it's the people you meet. Because, you know, I like paid events because you get a higher caliber of person going to them. If you go to free events, you know, you might learn some things, but, you know, unfortunately, a lot of people go to free events. You get some great people, but a lot of people go because they've got no money at all. If you want to be wealthy, you need to get around other wealthy people. You want to mix with them. How are they learning? And this is why coming to live events like this and physically getting together is amazing. And by doing it just next to Heathrow, I know you've got some people already booked who are literally flying in overseas. It's very easy to get to from anywhere in the UK. So it's a great handy location, whether you're based in the UK or you're overseas. And what a great investment to do. And guys, I think if you just put I'm in, if you're interested in doing this, because I think you should definitely. How do people actually book their tickets? Do you have a link for them, or do they call you?
So you literally go to the link here, diversificationworkshop.com, and Shane's put the link in the chat box for people as well. And literally you go on there, it's got all the details. I can see Shane's put it in there already. The 5th, 6th, and 7th of February, Radisson Blu, Heathrow. Just by the way, one of the reasons we did Heathrow is we do have a bunch of people coming in from Europe and Ireland that want to be able to get there. So we want to be on the ground in England for people to be able to get access. But for those coming in from Europe, it makes it easy for them in terms of that process as well.
Yeah. And I know, obviously, you're basing this one in England, and we're going to focus on England first. But obviously, you know, you are obviously explaining about how to globally diversify, and we're talking about all the different markets and how you can tap into those. But obviously, we're just focusing on England on that first morning because we're actually in England, and I'm going to share some of the actual live opportunities available in the UK market.
Yeah, completely. And I think that's the point. It's not either or, it's and both, because any good investor would definitely have a proportion of their investment in the UK and in pounds. And then equally, you know, they would look to America, to Europe, etc. And that's what we're going to take between you and I. We're going to take people through that opportunity to be able to participate. We're also going to be introducing you to the ability to get access to a family office. So I'm going to be taking you through. Most people don't even know that this is possible. We've actually democratized access to a family office. And so, you know, when people pay to get the advice and the results, we need to support everyone to get access to the same advice and results. And this is a bit of a game changer for people in terms of that process. And I think one of the things that I started with is that there's a lot of people out there that have been through this process and are going through this process. And you too can achieve that in terms of what is actually happening. I showed you earlier this evening, you know, Jordan and what Jordan achieved in terms of passive income between countries, currencies, and assets, effective results with predictability, the right knowledge for him and his family, wealth protection, plan B, and a peace of mind. accountability, have a family office, generational wealth, a wealth plan, and results. And again, those of you who resonated with Jordan, this workshop's literally being created to help you achieve that. Victoria, streamlined investment strategy, feels empowered to make the right decisions for her family, and financial freedom to cherish more moments with her loved ones. And so what I wanted to finish off with, and I'm going to chuck up another little poll here, because I'd love to know if it's something that is of interest to you and whether you'll be joining Simon and I in London for the event. And so I've got a little poll here that I want to chuck up. And while I'm doing that poll, I'll share my screen again. I remind you of those questions, because these questions have been designed, and what we will be helping you answer over those 3 days is what would it mean to you in 12 months or less to be earning a passive income of 5K without any hassle or complexity? And how would you like a system which will help you statistically get there 5 times quicker, faster, and simpler? I asked you this right up front, and now Simon and I have actually shown you how this can become a reality. I also showed you the 7 pillars to wealth, making money while you sleep. I've literally shown you real examples of buildings that are paying out on a monthly or quarterly basis, where you don't have to fix the toilets, you don't have to deal with tenants, you don't have the hassle, so you can own the assets with hassle-free, simple, and safe. You've got access to the knowledge of the top 1%. You've got access to the partners that the top 1% have, so you can navigate the uncertainties. You've got time freedom. Basically, you get your time back. You can diversify across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. And lastly, you can protect your wealth, have a plan B, and peace of mind. This is the formula, which we'll go into in a lot more detail. It's all about passive income, which sits at the middle, and it's about diversifying across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. And so I suppose to finish off, people have 2 choices. The one is to keep doing what you've always done, and yet if diversification, commercial property, international property is something you're looking at, and possibly you're in England and you've been doing buy-to-let, but now actually you've got the opportunity to partner with partners like Simon, then the question I would have is, if you were to invest £997 and all it did was help you achieve your freedom goal, would it be worth it to you? Just type in the chat box, yes or no. Would it be worth it to you? If all it did was provide you with a way to protect your wealth, Simon, it's interesting coming from South Africa, and you show me what's happening there with the government and tax and all this. At the end of the day, you never want all your eggs all in one basket. And so, diversity allows you to protect against political, societal, economic, currency, and not having all your eggs. Would it be worth £997 if it helped protect your wealth? What about if it saved you a decade worth of your time? Would that be worth £997 to you? Yes or no? What about if it actually helped you create globally diversified passive income and it gave you that peace of mind that you've been looking for? Would it be worth £997? And so a gentleman you'll meet, he's actually going to be at the event in London, is a gentleman called Michael. He actually came on a buyer's trip. In the old days, and I joked facetiously, 10 years ago was the old days, because we didn't have platforms like Crowd Property or Wealth Migrate, and you actually had to get on a plane, you had to fly to America, you had to buy houses in terms of that process. And what Michael said was, when I joined, it was the best money I ever spent, and it would never have happened if I tried to do it myself. And so you can go and read, literally go to diversificationworkshop.com. You can go to Trustpilot. You can see what different people have had to say about their experiences in terms of these workshops and ultimately in terms of investing. And it's a mixture between written and video. But this is a limited offer. At the end of the day, Simon, we've been talking about this for a couple of months. The market is ripe right now. And when we were talking about it, we were like, right, we need to get on the ground. We need to help people start participating. We need to be able to get going. And that's why we put the dates in early Feb so that people can participate. Simon has said to us, 6 to 9 months is where the opportunity lies within the UK right now. And so whether you want to join the general tickets, literally £397 is what it will cost. But if you get involved now before Friday, and or if there's still tickets available, then you can get the early bird special at £297. And if you want to upgrade to VIP, it's £597. It's worth over £3,500, but you're getting it for £597. You get your lunches and your parking included. You get a VIP working lunch with me. You get a one-to-one strategy session with myself. in terms of your global diversification. You get access to Wealth Going Global, the home study course, which will give access to the right information, and you'll get access to Asset Class Mastery, which is all about the right partners. And I know, Simon, you and I share a similar want to be able to add value. So to those of you who are here, I want to give you a free gift. They're 3 white papers. So the one is the 5 laws to building wealth through real estate. The second is the 5 keys to offshore real estate investment success. And the third is the 4 ways to expand your global real estate portfolio through strategic partnerships. And I know in England, everyone calls it property. So you can, property and real estate are pretty much the same thing. So if you want that as a gift, and my partner Shane has put it in the gift, you can literally go and download it. We'll give you those 3 white papers for free. So in conclusion, why we believe you should work with us. Most people have excuses, and at the end of the day, it comes down to 3 things. I don't have the time, I don't have the money, and I don't have the knowledge. Now, 3 days is an investment of your time. I understand that. And Simon, you said it right up front. The best investment someone can ever make is in themselves. What I've found is that people that are really busy often buy these home study courses. I do this all the time. And I kid myself that I'm actually going to go and do it. Or I sit on an online webinar, and while I'm on it, I'm kind of doing lots of other things. But when I turn up in a room, when I commit my time and I turn up in a room with other like-minded people, that's when I get geometric results. And that's why we specifically have made it affordable so that money is not the issue. We've given you access to the best partners and the best knowledge, and we've tried to condense as much value into the 3 days in terms of time. So, for me, we've taken the 3 biggest barriers that people have, money, knowledge, and time, and we've literally removed that. We've made it as affordable as possible. We're giving you access to the knowledge, and we're giving you the time. And the final thing for me, I think, which is important, is that we provide global diversification. There's lots of platforms that are out there. As Simon said, one of the best in England is Crowd Property. But what we've allowed people to do by partnering with people like Simon is to be able to partner with the best people on the ground, but to be able to diversify around the world. And I know, Simon, you mentioned this. You and I have invested a fortune in terms of our personal development. I wouldn't tell people to do what I haven't done myself in terms of the amounts of money and what we've spent in terms of actually investing. And so for me, what I think is super, super important is you can go and spend all the money that Simon and I have spent on personal development, or you can just come and join us. And we can save you a hell of a lot of money and probably a decade, if not 2, in terms of your time. And what I've found is that some of the wealthiest and most successful people understand this. They understand the principle that literally they can try and do it all themselves, or literally they can partner. And I mean, this gentleman here, Alan, is a very, very successful property developer in the country he came from. He came on buyer's trips to America. He partnered with us. And, 10 years later, he's actually moved to America and is doing significantly well there. But it all started with partnership. And so, in conclusion, what is it you're looking for? Wealth protection, plan B, peace of mind, diversification, freedom, global citizen, empowering your children, immigration, ultimately living a life unlimited. This is the formula. It's about diversifying across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. And I think you kind of have 2 choices to finish off tonight. You can have the excuses of, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, or I don't have the knowledge, which are generally the 3 reasons people don't do things, even though they know it's good for them. And the other side of the fence is get what you want, get the knowledge, and get the time. And I think, Simon, you and I have shared the way for people to be able to do that. In terms of these choices, come and join us at the workshop. I love this African proverb to finish off. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so in conclusion, if you want to join us, you literally go to the link, diversificationworkshop.com. Come and join us. What you're going to get as part of the normal ticket, you're going to get the 3-day diversification workshop, plus you're going to get the 30-day passive income. Imagine the peace of mind if you were to start earning a passive income within 30 days from the event. If you join the VIP, you're going to get 3 lunches and the parking. You're going to get a working lunch. You're going to one-to-one strategy session. You're going to get Wealth Going Global, which is the right information, and you're going to get Asset Class Mastery. And so, Simon, that is all from me. I know that's a lot of information. Between
Absolutely.
I hate to think how much value we'll actually add in the 3 days, because I know we both feel very strongly about over-delivering.
I know you do, Scott, and that's why I like working with you. We like to give more value than people investing, and I can't stress to people enough that I said to Scott, I mean, we could charge thousands and thousands for this. By the way, this is not going to be an event with hundreds of people. This is going to be a fairly small, intimate event. That's the way it's been designed. Scott really wants to spend a lot of time working with people, as you said, on a have lunches with them, etc., one-on-one basis. I'm looking forward to come and contribute to this event. I know you've done it many times before. It's been very successful. We've got so many great reviews of it, and we're gonna just anglicize it a bit and show what the opportunities are in the UK. It's going to be amazing. I have to go now. I know, conscious everyone's time as well. I just encourage you to take action, find the time, put it in, make 2025 the year you're going to really make a difference in your wealth creation. So thank you, Scott. I say goodnight to everyone. I'll leave everyone with you. I look forward to seeing everyone in February in London. Thanks so much, guys. All the best.
Thanks very much, Simon. I really appreciate it. And to Tavia, you asked, will we be doing one in Birmingham? And Jolie said in the Midlands. The answer is no. So we are looking to do it one event in the UK, in London. We're specifically doing it near Heathrow because there's people flying in from Europe and from Ireland. And I think it's really important, if you're wanting to participate, it's a unique opportunity, a blend between the UK and international. I do these events around the world. In fact, I've done online events like we're doing now for a very long time. My first live event was in 2004, but I haven't done a live event in England since before COVID. And that's why Simon and I are teaming up. We're doing the live event. We spoke about where to do it, whether we do it in Birmingham or London, etc. And we decided, let's do it in London. And those that are keen will make an effort to get there. This is a unique opportunity to be able to meet us, to shake our hand, to look us in the eye. I saw that Louis made a comment up in the chat box. And, the one thing that Simon owns, I definitely own. If you've been investing for 20 plus years, I've been investing for 28 years, to put in perspective, you're never going to get it right 100% of the time. Like that, I guarantee you. And so I've certainly made mistakes. And one of the things that I'll be doing through the workshop is teaching you about the mistakes that I made, and what I've done. And same with Simon. He actually mentioned that earlier, where you can get access to the knowledge and you don't need to make the same mistakes. You can learn, you can grow. And so if you're thinking, hey, I want to invest in America, why would you go to America and try and do it all yourself when you can literally come and learn to avoid the mistakes? I mean, there's an entire module just on partners, how you find the right partners. Louis was referring to an organization called Orves. I learned some very, very hard lessons there. I too lost money in that deal. And I think what's important is that we can learn from those mistakes and make sure that we don't repeat those mistakes in terms of that process. And these are the things that I will literally take you through to be able to help you with that. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right here, Franziska. We're not doing one in Central Europe for now. We're doing it in London. I've got a number of people that are actually flying in from Europe. That's why we made it at Heathrow, so that it was easy for people to participate. It's going to be an incredible 3-day workshop. We'll, if you are flying in, we'll be staying at the hotel. In the evening, we can connect. And then we've actually got a social on the Friday evening, which will be a lot of fun with our mastermind members and some of our shareholders in terms of that process. So I just want to see if there's any questions that I haven't been able to answer. Shane or Alex, if you wouldn't mind helping me if there's anything that I've missed in terms of that process. So I'm just looking here quickly if there's anything I've missed. I'm investing in Central Europe. Oh, excellent. In terms of that. Yeah, so look, I mean, in terms of, we don't invest in REITs. We prefer to invest directly with partners and directly in deals. So exactly as Simon has referred to. In terms of that process. What are the dates again? It's the 5th, 6th, and 7th of February. It's at the Radisson Blu at Heathrow in London. To achieve 5K, what is the initial investment? Sean, so I think it's a great question. And Sean, what we're going to do, and I will take you through it. And if I just go to my page here quickly, I just want to share something with you. So what we'll do is we'll literally be taking you through a calculator where I'll give you access to this. But ultimately, it's the calculator. And again, on day 5, not day 5, module 5, when we literally go through it, we will literally show you how to build out the plan. What do you need to do? What do you need to invest to be able to participate in terms of that opportunity? So Sean will literally take you through that. You'll walk away with a plan. You'll know what you need to do and how you actually achieve it in terms of that process. John says, I can't believe it, I'm in Edinburgh. Well, John, we need to get you to London in terms of that process. Thanks so much for the workshop. No problem, Godfrey. Will you be doing, okay, I'll answer those two. Thanks so much. Cheers, Simon. Will the session be recording available? This session. So yes, we will make this recording available. We've chosen not to do an online version of the London workshop. And the reason being is it's often very tricky for people that are in the room. And Simon and I want to be able to put all our energy into the people who are in the room. And then if people are online, it can be tricky. So for now, the only option is to actually be in the room and to come and learn. Now, by the way, we've never done this before in terms of Simon and I collaborating. So you're literally getting, in my opinion, the best out of the UK in terms of the ability to invest in the UK. And to my knowledge, there's no one that competes with us in terms of global diversification. So you're getting the best of both worlds, local and global, put together so that you can become a global citizen. You can focus on diversification. You can focus on building a globally diversified passive income and portfolio growth. Can people join WellInvest to be able, if we do not go to the meeting? Yes. So there will be, you can join and participate. And I think what's important, maybe we'll follow up with you, Fran. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Franziska. We will send an email to everyone with follow-up details. So watch your email. I'm going to put in there a couple of testimonials. You can go watch videos from real people, real stories, and what they've actually been through. A mixture of UK people, European people, and some international people in terms of that process. Ellen, are you holding a workshop in South Africa? Yes, for those South Africans, we actually got a roadshow in South Africa where we've got a number of breakfasts. The dates are the 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th around South Africa. So if you are in South Africa, then you can join that. Shane said, I want to join VIP, but I only see the early bird special. Oh, great question. Thank you, Shane. So what you basically do here is you literally go to, you go to the page, diversification workshop. And so this is the page here. You click here, join the workshop, and you'll see it's the early bird special. And then once you've done that, it'll take you to the next page, which allows you to upgrade to the VIP. And you can literally see that. So you got step 1, then step 2, congratulations, and upgrade. And it'll literally take you and allow you to upgrade. And then everything that you're going to get as part of the VIP experience is all here. You can literally go read all about it. You can see the value, literally the breakdown here. It's over just short of £3,500 worth of value, and you're getting it for 597 in terms of that process. You can go read all about it, see what everything's about in terms of that process. So thank you, Shane, for that question. And let me go back to this. Jay said, grateful to be present today. Thank you very much, Jay. Yep, appreciate it. So in conclusion, are there any questions that I haven't answered? Anything you would like to know about the UK market, about the workshop, about the international market? Obviously there's a big impact expected in the UK with Trump getting into power today and his inauguration. And what does America first mean? One of the things we do at our mastermind level is we deal with the family office, and we're constantly reviewing what does that mean? What does it mean for markets? What do we mean for interest rates and inflation and everything in between? And as a if you're going to start thinking not as a retail investor, not as a mom and pop investor, but rather as an institutional investor, then you really need to start getting access to the right information and the right partners. The right information and the right partners. And hopefully Simon has shared that with you today. I could come along and I could present to you for 3 days on how to invest in England. But surely it'd be better just to, listen to someone like Simon, who's been doing it more than anyone I know in England. He's created the Property Investor Network, a massive network of property investors. And what's so exciting now with technology is Simon's no longer just teaching you how to invest, but you actually have the ability to invest alongside him and to invest with him. And that's what I mean by getting access to the right information and the right partners in terms of that process. So any closing thoughts? Shane, Alex, anything that I need to that I've forgotten or that's important? Just remind people, if they do and are interested, they literally go to the website, diversificationworkshop.com. They can sign up for the general ticket. And then if they want to join the VIP, then there's an opportunity to upgrade to the VIP. And in the general ticket, you're getting the 3 days diversification workshop, and you're getting the 30-day passive income challenge, where we'll help you 4 simple steps over 4 weeks to help you be able to get a passive income. If you want to upgrade to the VIP, you'll get your lunches and your parking included for 3 days. So it's kind of hassle-free. you've got a working lunch with me, you've got a one-to-one strategy session with me in terms of your global diversification and your strategy. You've got access to Wealth Going Global, which is our home study course to teach you about the right information, and you've got access to Asset Mastery. And I'll give you a good example. Who here has heard of data centers? So just type in the chat box if you've heard of data centers or if you know anything about data centers in terms of investing. Now, something I only learned in the last year is that the growth in data centers is doubling every 6 months. So it's exponentially growing. And yet the supply of data centers is fixed because there's a real problem with building data centers because of technology and specifically the technology demands which require electricity. And so you've got this massive imbalance, like Simon already spoke tonight, about supply and demand. And that's one of the easiest ways to know where there's an opportunity. You know, we've got a partner where, as part of Asset Mastery, they are not only teaching about data centers, they've invested $5 billion in data centers. So not only can you learn about them, but you've also got the ability to invest alongside them in data centers, as an example. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I deeply appreciate it. It's always an honor and a privilege to share the stage with Simon. I hope you've learned some stuff tonight. I hope you enjoyed his UK property update. I think what's really important is that, as Warren Buffett says, be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy. And as Simon's alluded, there's a great opportunity at the moment in the UK. He's got some wonderful strategies to be able to participate. I'm super excited. Him and I have been working on this for a long time, along with our team and his team, to be able to allow us to participate. And if you want to come and join us, then come and get on the ground, be part of it, come and get the knowledge and get access to the opportunities. And so thanks very much for your time. I deeply appreciate it. To all of you online from wherever you're coming in the world, I hope you enjoyed it tonight. And most importantly, I look forward to seeing you in London. If you're in Europe, Northern England, the Midlands, Ireland, or anywhere else in between, come and meet us at Heathrow. Come and be part of this experience. I fundamentally believe, and I know for a fact, you'll get significant value out of it. Good night, everyone. Cheers.